Late afternoon, the warm yellow glow of streetlights bathed the small street where Hope's Diner sat modestly between old weathered buildings. The doorbell jingled softly as a middle-aged black man stepped inside. His face was calm, his deep eyes carrying the weight of someone who had weathered many storms. He wore an old wool coat and well-worn shoes, but his presence radiated a quiet warmth and composure. The diner wasn't too crowded. Dark wooden tables, a few silent patrons eating. Their meals and soft jazz music playing from an old speaker created a subdued atmosphere. The man chose a table near the window, where he could watch the cars glide by under the dim streetlights. A young waitress approached. Her brown hair was tied back in a hurried ponytail, and her white apron had a few small stains. Dark circles shadowed her tired eyes. She placed a menu on the table, trying her best to smile professionally. "Good evening, sir. What would you like to order?" The man observed her for a moment. She tried to appear normal, but her swollen, red-rimmed eyes and slightly trembling voice betrayed her sadness. Softly, he asked, "Are you okay?" The waitress, flinched slightly. It had been a long time since anyone had asked her that with genuine concern. "I'm fine, thank you," she replied quickly, turning away to avoid his gaze. But just as she started to walk off, she heard him say, "You don't have to pretend. I don't know what's going on, but sometimes sharing helps." "Lighten the burden," Mai froze. Her throat tightened. But she was too used to keeping everything bottled up, too accustomed to biting her lips to keep herself from crying in front of others. She simply lowered her head, pressed her lips together, and hurriedly said, "I'll be back to take your order." Then she walked swiftly to the kitchen, blinking away tears. A long and exhausting day. Mai had been working at this diner for 2 years. She didn't necessarily hate the job, but it had never been her dream. Every day was the same. Early mornings, late nights, aching feet. Yet her meager paycheck was never enough to cover everything. A year ago, her mother had fallen seriously ill. The hospital bills piled up, and Mai had no choice but to put her college dreams on hold and take on full-time shifts. Her father had abandoned them long ago. No one was there to help, no one to lean on. She felt like a small boat drifting in an endless sea, lost and directionless. Today had been especially bad. Her landlord had just raised the rent. Her mother needed more medication. And in the middle of all that stress, she had accidentally spilled a tray of drinks on a difficult customer. The manager had scolded her loudly in front of everyone. She had wanted to cry, to scream, but she forced herself to hold it in. And then this man had walked in, and with just a simple question, he had made her feel seen. A small note with a big message about. 30 minutes later, Mai returned to the man's table with a steaming cup of coffee. He smiled slightly, nodded in gratitude, and sipped it quietly. When he finished his meal, he paid the bill, adjusted his old coat, and prepared to leave. But before stepping out, he gently placed a neatly folded piece of paper on the table. Curious, Mai picked it up. There was nothing special about it, just an ordinary scrap of paper. But when she unfolded it, her breath caught in her throat. Written in careful, steady handwriting were 2 simple lines. "No matter how bad today is, tomorrow is always a new beginning. Never lose hope. There's more strength inside you than you realize." Below the message, he had signed, "Someone who has been where you are." Mai clutched the note tightly. She had no idea who this man was or why he had left these words. But none of that mattered. For the first time in a long time, she felt warmth spreading through her chest. She took a deep breath and looked around the diner. Same place, same job. But for some reason, tonight it felt different. Small changes, big miracles from that day forward. Mai decided to make a change. She no longer hung her head when reprimanded, nor did she feel as hopeless when looking at her growing bills. She started planning, saving every spare dollar, and spending time learning online courses about business. A few months later, she enrolled in a night class. Working all day and studying at night was exhausting, but her heart was filled with hope. A year later, Mai finally opened a small coffee shop with her savings and a modest loan. She named it Hope's Cafe, a tribute to the belief that hope always exists even on the darkest days. The note from the kind man remained framed on the wall of her cafe, a symbol of the turning point in her life. She never saw him again, but every time a customer walked in with tired eyes and a heavy heart, she remembered her own journey, and she always made sure to pass on what she had once received: a few kind words, a bit of hope, and sometimes just a simple question: "Are you okay?" The journey ahead. Many years had passed since that fateful day when Mai received a small note filled with hope from a stranger. Her life had changed completely. Hope's Cafe was no longer just a modest little shop. It had gradually gained recognition in the neighborhood, then expanded throughout the city. It was more than just a place to grab a coffee. It had become a warm refuge for those struggling, a space where anyone could find comfort, encouragement, or simply a moment of peace amid life's chaos. Mai was no longer just a cafe owner. She had become an inspiration. She started a blog to share her journey, writing about the uncertain days, the nights she doubted if she could keep going, and the moment when a small act of kindness changed the course of her life. Before long, she was invited to speak at entrepreneurship events, inspiring young people who were struggling just as she once had. She also organized fundraising events to support those in need, donating a portion of the cafe's profits to help students who couldn't afford tuition, assisting low-income workers, or simply providing a free meal to someone who needed it. And if he... Unexpected reunion one day. While Mai was busy tending to customers, an elderly man walked into the cafe. He was dressed in a simple suit, but his eyes carried the same warmth and wisdom. She recognized him instantly. It was the very man who had left her that note all those years ago. Mai froze for a moment, then hurried over, her eyes shining with emotion. Do you remember me?" she asked, her voice trembling. The man smiled. "The young waitress from back then, right?" Mai let out a soft laugh, tears welling up in her eyes. "Because of you, I am here today." She invited him to sit, and they spoke like old friends. Mai shared her journey, explaining how her life had changed after receiving that note. The man simply nodded, his expression full of pride. "I was once in your shoes. I know what it feels like to be lost and hopeless. But I also learned something. With just a little bit of hope, a little bit of encouragement, we can create miracles." Mai grasped his hand, her heart filled with gratitude. "From now on, I will keep doing the same. There are many others out there who, just like I once did, need a light in their lives." The man smiled and nodded. "I know you will." Spreading hope in the years that followed, Mai didn't just continue running her cafe. She expanded, opening multiple locations, all carrying the same mission: to bring hope to those who needed it most. She established a fund to support young people in need, helping them find opportunities for education and employment. She hosted workshops, sharing her story to remind people facing hardships that they were not alone. And in every branch of Hope's Cafe, one special feature remained: a wall dedicated to messages of encouragement. People could leave small notes with positive words, hoping that someone in need would read them and find the strength to keep going. The note from the man all those years ago was still displayed in the original cafe, a testament to the power of kindness, to the impact that even the smallest gestures could have. And so, from a struggling waitress, Mai had become a beacon of hope for thousands, because she had learned one important lesson. Sometimes, a single sentence, a small note, can change an entire life.